Hey guys, it's me, Galen. Galen's got Parkinson's. Today, I am going to paint a figure from the 70s, early 80s, Robin Hood. I'm using foundry paint. I'm even using a foundry brush. But it's not because I'm sponsored by Foundry. I like Foundry, it works for me. I've primed the figure, I've popped him on an MDF base. That fits nicely with my troops. But I've had a bit of debate with a few people about whether or not to paint these older figures. And the consensus of opinion seems to be that where they're painted and they've been used, they were painted to the right standard back in the 70s or the 80s, leave them alone. The chips and scratches and dints, bends, they're probably like battle scars, they've earned them. But this fella I found this fella in a box and he was primed. So I don't feel as if I'm making too big a heresy by trying, and I'm going to say trying because I've got Parkinson's. I might mention it occasionally, but my hand does shake. I find this very useful, and I sort of force that down into the floor, and that helps me get a bit of a focus. I always lay my paints out in order, personally. So I'll start with the very darkest, then the next, then the next, then the next, then the next. And that's how I used to work for a company where I painted figures professionally, and I found it helped me through the day. It sort of sorts out my thinking before I start. And as I finish with that colour, it can go in its appropriate drawer, and it's finished, it's put away and it's ready. I don't end up with a desk or a workshop full of paint all over. I've had them upside down overnight because I want the paint to sort of stuff that's at the bottom to come to the top. This is where Parkinson's is great, look. It's put that in your hand. I'm dead good at shaking. So because it's Robin Hood, I've decided personally that I'm going to use some green, and I like the old Foundry Phlegm green, but this is forest green. I've noticed. I've only just noticed that. I'm hoping you can see him after. This is where it all goes wrong for me, because I'm trying to see what you can see and I don't know. So I can either concentrate on my painting, or I can worry about what you can see. So it's already primed. So what I'm going to do is I put the dark green on, and I do it to the best of my ability, but I'm not worried if I smudge, because that will be picked up by all these other colours I'm going to add to it. So that's dark green. I'm going to give him dark green leggings and a dark green codpiece, if you'll pardon the expression. Got a lot of good detail on this casting. It's got sort of string tied around his leggings. And again, I'm not being overly precious, which is just as well, because I'm not sure I can be. Wasn't sure for a second if that was the tails of his shirt or saggy trouser bottoms. I've decided he's got a saggy bottom. He's got a saggy bottoms. They were a fashion back in the day. So here we go. Let's have I think that'll do for him. Yep. So I finished that dark green. Pop him there. I'm guessing dark green on top of black hasn't shown you very much. Riveting. Give it a blow. I'll give it a wash. Some people ask me why I use such a fine brush when I keep harping on about having Parkinson's. And I use a fine brush because I find that because I can only put small amounts of paint on the brush, I can only make small mistakes. if I had a bigger brush, I'd make more mistakes. Now I'm doing, his hair's going to be brown. And again, I've already now, and I know I've smudged onto the head, onto the green, but I'm not bothered because there's another green coming along in a sec. Put the brown away. Have a clean. I think everything now is going to bump into everything else. So let's do the flesh next, because I'm not mad keen on things bumping into each other. The foundry paint, and I don't want to sound like I'm an advert for foundry, I've used for a long time. And some of these pots I've had 25 years. Seriously, I retired in 2001, and 2002 I received a sort of lump payment as part of a pension deal, and I said I'd buy myself something, so I bought the entire foundry range of paint. And you can buy individual pots, or you can buy like these 3 shades, dark, medium, light. Some are different, but the flesh tones, there are lots of flesh tones. There's more than 3. But I sort of like this method of dark, medium and light. So that's the dark flesh. That can go in its flesh box. The red I'm only using as a highlight, and I'm going to use it as a little, it's got a little detail on his hat. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to paint that red because I want a little pop of colour somewhere. I don't think that's realistic, but it's artistic. There we go. That's that. Oh. I've got to try and remember where all the different colours live. My desk has all different drawers. I have different colours in different drawers. And then I'm back to the green. And again, now, if I sort of logically, I've now covered of the 5 elements to the painting: very dark, dark, medium, highlight, light. I've already got rid of very dark and dark. So psychologically, it makes me feel as if I'm doing a good job. I'm not dry brushing, but I'm not trying now to. I've already got dark green on these leggings, so really, because of me hand shaking, what I do is I get the paint on the brush, and then I sort of just allow it to put my paintbrush on, let my hand carry on shaking, and where it hits, he gets a bit of paint. And where it doesn't, guess what? Oh yeah, it doesn't. But I'm not trying to paint the leg every bit. That's and then you can say, well, that's the style I've opted for. Now this is a bit more delicate because I'm just trying to touch where I smudged the hair onto the dark green, and it's harder. If you're older and British like me, you'll remember Bob Monkhouse and a game at the weekend. It was called the Golden Shot. They used to have blindfolded people with a crossbow. And the other partner in the thing would tell them when to shoot and go left a bit, right a bit. When they were absolutely certain they were on the target, they go fire. That's burning the bolt. And that noise is me trying to find the right draw for the green. Sound effects, special effects there. So I'm on to the middle bit now. Gosh, it's bang on. This is for the things like the bows and the arrows. This is spear shaft, and I'm only using 2 of them. I'm not using the dark, the medium, and the light. I'm only using the medium and the light, because let's face it, they're only arrows. Reminds you of the story of the 2 blokes talking in a pub, and they're both beekeepers. One of them says, "How many bees you got?" He says, "I've got 100,000 bees." So, "How many hives you got?" He said, "I've got 2. I've got 2 hives and 100,000 bees." I said, "Yeah." I said, "What about you? What have you got?" He said, "I've got 20 million bees." He said, "Like 20 million bees? How many hives you got?" He said, "1. Nuts to them, they're only bees." Again, I'm trying to cover the bow, and I'm trying to paint I'm trying to avoid the flesh of the hand that I've already done, and in truth I'm trying to avoid the worst parts of the fletchings on the arrows. Couldn't think of the word, which happens when you get old. Laugh as much as you want now, lads, but you'll all be there one day. Right, done that. Done that. So now it's let's have a look what's probably best to do next. Oh yeah, this is buff leather. So you're gonna have buff leather jerkin. Now this is buff leather, and again, just like I did before, I'm not worried about getting all of it. I'm not worried about smudging at the moment. I'd rather not, but I've resigned myself to the inevitable. And I think what you've got to do with a disability is make it work for you. No point harping on about the mistakes or the things you can't do. And I say that because people who maybe don't watch the channel regularly, my reason for starting this was as a wargamer feeling a bit isolated, feeling old, not being able to share as much of the hobby as I did when I was younger. I can't drive anymore, for example. So access to wargames clubs and things is becoming trickier. Although kind souls make the effort to come to me, or people take me to things, so I'm not complaining. Never complain on this channel. Like my granddad used to say, problem shared, problem doubled. Better mop that up, otherwise I'm going to end up with it all over my hand. Ploughing through these babies. What's this one? This is for his hair. Because it's a bit lighter, the theory is, he said, this is going to look like highlights, like the dappled shade of sunlight in Sherwood Forest. But all I'm looking for are mistakes like that there, where I've gone with the buff leather quite badly into his hair. So can I get rid of it? Yes I can. Like Bob the Builder. Can I fix it? Yes I can. Sorry if I keep going quiet, I have to really concentrate. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to do his boots deep brown leather. Deep brown leather. I don't always. Sometimes when I used to be a reenactor up in York. I did work for like Jorvik Museum and things years and years and years ago. And we had to have authentic clothing. I didn't wear shoes very often in reenacting because the blinking things are so slippy. You're better off without them. But they were sort of tan colour, to be honest. I can't think of anything I had equipment-wise that was dark, deep brown as a peasant. Now this is going to be tricky because this is a belt. All right, I've got my tongue out. Oh dear, I'm not even getting the paint in the right hole now. It's getting hard. But the beauty of my system, call it a system if you like, is that I'm still painting. I didn't think I would be. When I was first told that I had Parkinson's disease, my first fear was that it would stop my oil game painting, and it never did. So no, that's not true. It did for probably a year. I just didn't even try. And then I start to buy figures or find figures that were discarded, unloved, broke. And I found them on places like eBay and junk shops in my own collection. And instead of trying to paint the entire figure, I'd say, well, okay, he used to have a green helmet. I'll just get the green out and I'll just try and hide the chips, the silver bits. And I was finding that I was getting the same pleasure as I used to get from painting characters and figures for museums. I know they're not as good. I could go down to my War Games room and bring out figures I painted 30, 40 years ago and say, oh, look at that. Wasn't I lovely? But I'm not doing that because that was then, this is now. And I'm more interested in perhaps trying naively to either say to people who think, well, I can't paint. You can. The Dadaist founder, Duchamp, said, if an artist tells you it's art, it's art. He's the lad who put a toilet upside down on a wall. And that's how I feel about art. If the artist says it's art, it's art. If I tell you this is a figure, to be honest, it's the best I can do. It's nothing to do with anybody else. When I started wargaming way back in the early 70s, that was the rule. You had to paint your figures, but the standard was the best of your ability. If you could honestly say, yeah, look, that's the best of my ability, it is not for anyone else to judge you. Because if they do, it'll put you off and you'll stop doing it. And the best way to improve wargames figure painting, like anything else, is to do it. Faces, I tend to do all darkest tones. Then on a lighter bit, I tend to just swish at backs of hands, feet, nose, cheeks, as if the light's catching them. Oh, they're lighter bits, and then I've got another colour to go. Well, I've got an ink wash to go on. So I'm going to do the red. And again, we all know, I've already said this, the red is only, oops, what a mess. I'm only going to go on there because I haven't made any mistakes there. And if I start faffing, I'm going to make mistakes. Not making mistakes. Well, I'm making lots of mistakes, but hey, put the white on. Look at this, I've hardly got any paint left to do. I'm cracking on here. So what I do now, I'm going to paint the arrow fletchings white. You'll see why in a minute. Trust me. Trust me, I used to be a teacher. And I'm also going to do, this is going to be a bit of a test for you. I'm going to do his sleeves beautiful and brilliant white. Now, trust me, they are not going to stay like that. Nearly there. Yep. It's the white. I've had to wait a little while and I paused the camera because I'm now going to use Citadel Reichland Flesh Shade ink, and hopefully this works. I'm going to use a bigger old brush here, this fella, and I'm going to liberally coat things like face, hands, wood, leather, feathers, spear shafts, legs, anything I want to look more interesting than it does. Don't want him to look all shiny. This is my choice. Takes a certain amount of bravery to finish a figure, and then literally to drown him in ink. I am not, you'll notice, or you won't notice if I filmed this incredibly badly, trying to paint the hat. I'm missing off his hat because I want it to stand out. I want it to be very, very bright, and the figure then to be darker, which will give me a sort of an element of interest, which draws your eye away from the bits you've not painted very well. Another trick. Thank you very much. There you go. No, you're welcome. Again, this now needs to be thoroughly dry, and in the interest of honesty, I'm going to pause the camera for perhaps 20-30 minutes and then come back and carry on. As the ink dries with a piece of towel, a kitchen towel curled up, I'm just going to areas where the ink pools that I don't like. I'm just going to sort of touch them and drag it away. Now that's not everywhere. Some places I like it. So I'm just examining it now for areas that I think are a bit extreme. And I'm just pulling the ink around to give it a chance to either cover a different area or settle somewhere else. And so now I've only got 4 paint colours to do, and I will go from top to bottom, which is my favourite method. So start with the very brightest flesh, and all I'm going to do is try to just catch the nose, little touch on the cheeks, smudge across the fingers. There's a mistake there, turn that into a thumb. And again, just on the back of the hand. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going crazy. Now going to the buff leather. This is the light tone, so I'm looking now to hide things I don't like, really. If I like them, I'm leaving them. So here, there's like a sort of a loop there, so I'll just try and touch it. I'll do that very badly. So I'll immediately rush with a paper towel, push it so hard it knocks him out the stand. All of these things you have to do if you're not doing all these things. And if I've made any sound effects, you've got to do them. Gosh, this is watery. This needs a shake. I can't sit still. I got the hippie shake. Shake it all over. Paint's gone all, it's all separated. Like me, all the thick stuff's gone to the bottom. Again, I don't want to sort of go crazy. Just looking to accent some bits where maybe the light might be just touching it. Whew. Come over all necessary. That's it. Use the old finger there to give it a smudge. And again. Big swap across the back. Big swap across there. That'll do. famous war cry of the lack of skill. I'll do. Should be right. This is deep brown leather. Oh, deep brown leather. So again, I'm just looking wherever. Let's go here. Start with the belt. I've got just little areas of his belt. Not going mental. There's that little pouch, script, whatever, has got green on it. So let's get rid of that. Paint on the brush. Shake my hands. Just touch it. Same here on the back. I don't want to. If I make a mistake here, you see, now I've got to go and get the colours back out the box. So on the boots, I'm literally just running across the toes where the light might have caught them. That's done. And I'm now finally last spot of paint, and this is for the arrows and the bow. Same thing. I'm not doing a whole lot, just gonna sort of tickle the arrows so I'm catching where they stand out, leaving them where they don't. Same on the back. For the bow, I'm just going to do a couple of swipes. Hands smudged there, so I'll do that one bit. And I am ready for a tablet. It's nearly 5 o'clock. Just have the bow catching the light just there. Finished. That's him done. Okay. So, painting, or the hard of thinking. I will do the base before I do the photographs, which I'll put online as part of the thumbnail and part of the presentation, just to show you what I did. My aim is to demystify, help people who have perhaps not as dexterous or don't have the physical control that either we used to have or that we never had. I don't know if that helps, guys, but I hope it does. Anyway, ta-da, Chuck! I'm unexpectedly back because it did occur to me that I should do the base. So, horrible old brush, cheapest PVA known to man. Nothing special. I don't do the sides of the base, these bits, I leave them. What you do is up to you, it's all your preference, isn't it? I'm just showing you what I do. Basics, I suppose the only level of skill here is trying not to get too much glue on the actual boots of the figure or the sides. The beauty of PVA is you can wipe it off. Comes off very nicely with a finger, so you're not doing yourself a mischief. You're not like super glue. You spend the rest of your life with a Space Marine glued to your hand. When you're in your open coffin at the end, people at the wake say, what's that on his hand? Then we never asked. Family secret. I thought they were grave goods. No, he just super glued it to his hand in 1986. We've never been able to get it off. Chuck the gluey brushes in the water, leave them there. Now I have a couple of things, they're not secrets. I have a tub here, and every time I do any flocking, any basing, whatever's left at the end, I sweep it up and I chuck it in there. So over the years that's become all manner of nastiness, including bits of static grass and all sorts of things. Put them on a bit, put a bit round here, so it's gonna go in the bit where the base matches the figure, so disguise that. Bit of this scenic gravelly stuff, bit of light green, and I keep doing it over my collection pot. And then a bit of much darker green, like that on. Give it a blow, magic blow. Look for some flowers.